I've never done things conventionally. I've never fit into the mold of what others expect. I look back and I'm like, I'm so glad that I am the way that I am. I think the 8-year-old me would be like, you're still pretty true to you, even if you're being a wuss and you're too scared to put yourself out there and do certain things.
That's Shae LaPlace, and this is the Powerful Ladies podcast. Hey guys, I'm your host, Kara Duffy, and on this episode, you get to meet Shae LaPlace. She's the integrator for the Powerful Ladies team, which means she's my right hand to making sure all things Powerful Ladies and KDCC come to life. In addition to working for Powerful Ladies, she's a freelance writer, an editor, a bartender, and the creator of Bad Outdoor Women. In this episode, we discuss her journey, what it's like to be on the team at Powerful Ladies, and all the exciting things coming up in our International Women's Day 2021. International Women's Day on March 8th is the biggest event of the year for Powerful Ladies, and we have lots of events for you to come to celebrate, connect, and network with fellow Powerful Ladies from around the world. On March 8th and March 11th, we'll be hosting our events, everything from an Open Rise and Thrive event to a very powerful guest speaker panel where we'll discuss our theme for the year, Never Underestimate a Powerful Lady. And then on the 11th, we'll be having our workshop all about how to create your dream team and what it looks like to hire, interview, and also structure your teams to be thriving. And of course, we have our virtual happy hour that evening as well. You're all invited to join. See the link in our Instagram bio at Powerful Ladies, where you can find all the events, sign up for everything, and even support us even further. In addition to joining us online, you can also join us in partnering with our charity partner, womenforwomen.org. All of our merchandise that we've created to celebrate 2021 International Women's Day, all the proceeds go to sponsor women in their educational programs. So you get to help us pay empowerment forward this year. Again, all the links to find everything are on our Instagram channel in our link in bio at Powerful Ladies. Shae, welcome to the Powerful Ladies podcast.
Hi. This is so surreal.
Right? Well, it's always weird because obviously we talk about every single day, but usually it's not on Zoom and usually it's not being recorded. So a little bit different than normal. But just like everybody else on the podcast, please introduce yourself and tell people what you're doing in the world.
All right. Well, my name is Shae LaPlace, and I am the integrator at Powerful Ladies. I'm also a bartender at Telluride Brewing Company and a freelance writer.
Mm-hmm. And you have a couple of different clients you work with, right? Like in addition to Powerful Ladies, you do some other freelance work.
Yep. I work with a really small media agency out of Nederland, Colorado called Formidable Media. Mm-hmm. It's basically just this guy, Aaron Bible, who's awesome. And I've just started working with Cannabrand, who are the #1 cannabis advertising agency.
Which is, who knew such a thing would exist even 2 years ago? Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a very strange moment, but they're absolutely crushing it. And they are definitely fulfilling a need that came up quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I met you, you were in Boulder and you went to UC, right?
Yeah, CU Boulder. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And before that, you were from Pittsburgh. Is that correct?
Yep. Born and raised 19 years in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So how did you make the jump from Pittsburgh to Boulder and then to Telluride?
Well, when I was applying for college, I was basically fairly certain I wanted to get away from Pittsburgh. And I definitely knew that weather was a big thing for me. And I just applied to a lot of schools. And then when I got into the University of Colorado and I started reading about it, I was like, wow, this place is amazing. And I had never been. I just decided to go. So that's really how I decided on that. And then while I was at CU, I visited Telluride a couple of times. I had the good fortune to visit to ski and then for some music festivals and just kind of fell in love.
And that was one of the first projects that we worked on together, was figuring out a way to get you from Boulder to Telluride.
Yeah.
And for many people who want to live in their dream place, how would you tell them to make it happen? Or what did you coordinate so that you could make it happen?
I think I just started like step by step setting the realistic goals. Like, one, finding a place to live is the hardest thing when you're moving to a new place because you don't know anybody. And I think that was a challenge that I knew was a thing. It's difficult to find housing here in Telluride. So I sort of started with that. Because I'm a bartender, I knew that there was going to be somewhere for me to work. Yeah. Because there's always a bar that needs somebody. So I started with housing, and I started to set like little financial goals of like, okay, I need to have money for a moving truck, and I need to have money for like every time you move, you like think you don't need new things, but you always need new things. So I started setting some money aside for that. It wasn't enough, but I did. Once I had locked down the housing, which was an interesting experience, I posted on a local Facebook page, and I was like, this is who I am. This is what I'm looking for. This is why I'm moving to Telluride. And my roommate, landlord, best friend, Stephanie, reached out. She didn't comment on the page. She just messaged me and was like, I think I might have a place for you. And then we sort of had a couple phone calls, and then I came out here and came to the house, and we met, and we were like, oh, this is going to work great. We got along right away. And since I had locked down housing that weekend, I went around to local restaurants and bars and put in my resume and applied to jobs and kind of got to know the local management and whatnot and locked down a job. And I actually ended up locking down 2 jobs that weekend so that, one didn't work out. I had another one. But yeah, that was really the plan of attack, was that like, once I locked down housing, locked down our job, and then that way I moved here. And then I think like 4 days later, I started working. So I didn't have any like gap time, but basically my advice would be start with housing and lock that down, and then kind of take the incremental steps that you need to, that little bit of money that you put away, and then locking down that job so that you don't feel like you're going to get there and then figure it out, because that's really scary to make all that financial sacrifice and then get somewhere and not know what you're going to do for work. So.
Well, I'm sure everyone heard at the beginning that you said you're the integrator for Powerful Ladies. Like, what the hell is an integrator, and what does that mean?
I feel like that's a better question for you. But I feel like I consider myself sort of the go-between. Like, I'm your right hand in that. If there's something that you need done, it's my job to, all right, I start making lists of who I need to be in contact with and all the different like pillars of how that task or project all the pillars that need to be there for that thing to happen, I guess. And lately that's been a lot of marketing, which is awesome because that's closer to home of what I studied in school. And yeah, I mean, it's really been a learning process, I think, for both of us, right? Like, both been sort of figuring out what the integrator role is as we go. Definitely a lot of strategy, definitely a lot of you and I putting our heads together to figure out what Powerful Ladies needs to grow and progress and to make everything that we do the best it can possibly be.
Yeah. And people who only know Powerful Ladies as a podcast, there's so much else going on, right? And really, you're the integrator for 2 businesses in truth, because we have the podcast, we have our community, we have all of our courses and workshops, we have events we're doing. We also have the Thrive. The whole Thrive membership. We also have, getting sponsors for the podcast. We have all of my whole coaching, the KDCC business built into it. There's so many layers to this business that it's impossible and to just be me doing it. And it's never just been me. I had a team before anyone knew it existed. But the integrator role is so critical because as anyone who's a CEO, and especially a CEO who's creating the content that's being generated as well, like, we can't do it all. And I really need someone to manage me and make sure that these things are happening. So that's what we've been building, right? Because some integrators are very like following a process that's already been created, but you and I have been creating the processes together and figuring out who on the team should really manage it. Because it doesn't have to just be you. And honestly, it's too much work to just be you as well. But for anyone that doesn't have the integrator role, it's so important because all the parts of the business the same way I do. So you're able to help me look at ways that we can make it better, connections. Oh, that needs to connect to this. And it's really critical. So if anybody thinks that they need an integrator or a brand manager or whatever that right-hand role might look like for you, please send us a message because we can talk about it.
Absolutely.
We'll also be talking about it the whole month of March because that for our Thrive membership, the whole topic is building teams. And so the integrator role is critical for when we're building out teams. What's it been like for you kind of coming through Powerful Ladies and getting to where you are now? What's it been like from your perspective?
I feel like recently I've had such a shift into focus because I mean, really, we started working together in April. It'll be 2 years ago.
Which is crazy.
Which is crazy because that feels like yesterday to me.
Yeah.
But I think it's been this moment of it feels like everything's coming to fruition. I remember when we first met, I was like, wow, this is a woman that I really want to be involved with, someone I really want to learn from. And I feel like you have taught me and shown me how powerful I am. And so in that, I have increased my power on the Powerful Ladies end, like what I do with you and the responsibility that you give me has increased. And I look at our journey and I just feel so excited and so proud of everything that we've done together. And I'm even more excited for what's to come. Like that journey has been, this job has been something that I have prioritized, even though my life doesn't always allow for me to have the most time. But it's always been something that it's on my mind. Powerful Ladies has been on my mind every day for 2 years. So now having this real role where we work together every single day, it's felt like the moment where it's like that pinnacle moment where everything that you've been working for is starting to happen. So it's just been really exciting. And I'm just really looking forward to everything that we can continue to do.
Yeah. And that's what I have to pace myself, right? Because the vision of what Powerful Ladies is still becoming has been the plan from day -500. So the hardest part for me as an impatient person is like waiting for it to come to life the way it's supposed to. And we test so many things, right? Like we weren't expecting to launch the Thrive membership in April last year. We were expecting to launch it in like Q3 or Q4. And because of COVID, we had to like pivot, switch everything. And obviously, whenever you launch something in 2 weeks versus like 9 months, there's all these things that you realize you want to change or shift. And whenever you create a product, you don't really know how the customer or the consumer is going to want to use it because they see it so differently from you. So I'm really excited that we're just about to kick off that process of kind of releasing Thrive 2.0. Because I think it'll be more fun and more engaging and more impactful for the people who already love it and the people who don't know they need it yet.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the Thrive community and membership is something that people don't really understand until they're in it. And I'm hoping that as we progress this 2.0, this next level of what that looks like, people can really start to see the potential of what Thrive holds for them. Because I think there's a lot of people out there who don't really know the potential that's there yet.
Well, so for people who are listening, what is the potential? Who should be thinking that Thrive is like where they need to go next?
Interestingly, I think that any woman who's at a point in life, or a man, honestly, any human being who's at a point in their life where they're ready to make a pivot of any kind, whether that's in your career or in your life, I think that Thrive actually, though the focus is your business and is your career, in some ways, I think that all the lessons can be kind of applied to life in general. It's a community of people who support each other and who encourage each other and who are there to answer your questions. Like, I came to a moment in my career where I wasn't sure if something was weird or bad. And I called you and I was like, that's what Thrive's about. Leaning on each other, asking each other questions, because we don't have to know everything all the time on our own. No. We only have our own experience and our own, research and the things that we've the things that we've delved into in life to base our understanding off of. And so when I started freelance writing with a new client, it's like, I'm not sure if this is right. Am I doing the right thing? Should I be asking more questions? And whether it's a new freelance client or a new job that hired you on, or wherever you are in that kind of spectrum of decisions and processes and new experiences, there is a place in Thrive for you to have a better understanding of yourself, others, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. Yeah. It's just a really helpful place for anyone in a transition.
Yeah. And you know, when I first started coaching, I was offering coaching in like life coaching, financial coaching, or business coaching. And I ended up collapsing it all because the same principles could be applied anywhere. And that's really what we're tackling in Thrive. So while it's a center for like female entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs, it really applies anywhere. Like our time management course, it applies to everybody. Our business budgeting course really is any budget course.
Yeah.
The clarity kit, like it gives you clarity on whatever you're up to. So while the majority of like what we dive into on a daily basis is about creating a life that you want, whether it's through your business or it's through a different life plan, we do have a focus on entrepreneurship because that to me is the fastest way to have the life that you want. And even you in what you're doing, like you may not consider yourself an entrepreneur, but you are, right? You run your own business of, you know, who wants to hire Shae, because you have it and you basically have all these different clients, including the bartending jobs, right? So
yeah, I like to think of that as something different, but I guess you're right. I suppose it is every facet of, you know, who we are. I think that we classify entrepreneur and entrepreneurialism. Is that a thing? Entrepreneurship. I think that we consider that so business oriented, but really you're right. Anyone who has a client or offers a service, you really are an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And
no matter what it is.
Entrepreneurs are just making life happen the way they want it to in general, right? Like I start businesses and part of it's because I have an idea for something I want to create, but it's also because I want financial freedom or location freedom or time freedom or getting to choose who I spend my time with. So there's a lot more people who I think are entrepreneurial than they give themselves credit for. And even when I worked in the corporate space, I've always been entrepreneurial. It wasn't like I showed up and did what I was told. Like, not that I was like causing problems, but like I never thought about it as a subordinate position. It was always me like helping to collaborate on this project. And so thinking about things that way, I think also changes how you see the world, because the same tools you're using to launch a business are the same tools that you can do to travel the world for a year or create any other project that you want. So I think it's awesome. I also made it, so I'm totally biased. But we have lots of other things happening in March. And one of them is our huge annual celebration of International Women's Day.
Yeah.
What are you excited about for International Women's Day?
I'm really excited about the panel. You know, despite the challenges of COVID, it's something I've been looking forward to for a while, to have the chance to bring together a group of like really awesome, powerful women and do. I had the idea of us doing a Powerful Ladies Summit someday. Yeah. And I think that the panel is kind of like a preview of what that could be like. So it's kind of like that's like one of my little Powerful Ladies dreams coming true. So I'm really excited about that. I shouldn't
what
call
is
it a
the
little
panel?
Dream. Yeah. Because nothing about me is little. The Powerful Ladies Never Underestimate a Powerful Lady International Women's Day panel will be a group of really awesome women coming together to talk about moments in life when maybe they've been underestimated or they've underestimated themselves. But they proved either someone else or themselves wrong. And I think I'm interested to see what the moments when some of these women have underestimated themselves, because I think that that's such a powerful statement, is remembering that, yes, other people from the outside do underestimate us. Sometimes because we're women, sometimes because we're too pretty or not pretty enough or whatever it is, or because we didn't speak well in the first time that we interacted with somebody, or we were too nervous, or we were too confident or whatever it is. There's all these, reasons that people come up with as to why they might underestimate a person or misjudge a person. And I think I'm really excited to hear about some of these awesome women in the moments when they've done that to themselves, because we all do it. Yeah. And I think it's a really powerful narrative to hear women who you look up to, or women who you think are so far ahead of you in life, or whatever, however you look at them. I think it's really powerful to hear them talk about the moments when they do that to themselves too, because we all do it. So I'm really excited to hear what everyone has to say. One of my best friends is on the panel, which I'm really excited about. And I think it's just going to be a great group of women, and I'm excited to see what everyone brings to the table.
Yeah. And International Women's Day has been a huge thing for Powerful Ladies from the beginning. It's March 8th every year. It's been celebrated since either 1901 or 1910, I forget. And the whole purpose is to celebrate the victories that women around the world are having in, equality and, equalizing pay, and just all the things that women haven't been allowed to do. I mean, it freaks me out when we were doing all of our whole podcast to honor Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and you realize that women couldn't open a bank account by themselves until it was in my mother's generation that happened. And that was crazy to hear. So even though we take for granted sometimes the small victories that we have had, or we don't even realize were a recent victory. And it's not just for within the US, it's really global. And so it's a great day to celebrate, coming together, the sisterhood of global Powerful Ladies community, and as well as the fact that women are out there essentially kicking ass and doing what they do every day for themselves and their families and their communities and everything else. So on International Women's Day, we have the panel, but we also have the Rise and Thrive that's open. What do you want to tell people about Rise and Thrive?
Rise and Thrive, I think, is one of the coolest things that we do at Powerful Ladies. And while it has historically been private and narrowed down to only the Thrive members, I think it's this awesome, super powerful way to start your week. I mean, there's nothing that changes the way that you feel in a moment better than talking to people who understand and who are there to listen and can walk you through it. And as someone who has a horrible anxiety on a Sunday, and Monday is always a scary moment for me, that Monday call is just such an awesome coming together of women who are there to support each other or calling for support. And I think that the choice to open it up to the public for the first time on International Women's Day is really just, I think, for us, it's a moment to share and to really say, okay, this day is all about the badass, amazing things that women are out in the world doing. And here's this way that women come together and share with each other and lift each other up. And again, it's not always about business. I mean, Rise and Thrive is really a place for support, because Monday mornings are hard. I don't care what you do for a living. Monday mornings are hard. I really don't. I don't care what you do. Monday's hard. And I think opening your day with this moment of collective support is just so beautiful. And I don't think that people realize how much they need that in their lives. For some people, it comes in the form of a Peloton class. And for some, it's a yoga class. Some, it's a walk with their dog in the morning. But Rise and Thrive is a really amazing way to start your week. And I think sharing it for International Women's Day just doesn't get any better.
So we've got 2 events on actual International Women's Day. We have 2 events on the 11th. We have the monthly workshop, which is all about creating amazing teams. And then we also have our happy hour that's happening that night, which we thought we would keep to just the membership, but we've also decided to open that up. So that will be a lot of fun. Everyone can join. Really get to celebrate International Women's Day and what's happening. We also have hundreds of ambassadors from around the world who are going to be doing our Instagram extravaganza on the 8th. And for anyone who hasn't followed us during International Women's Day in the past, go back through our feed at the Powerful Ladies on Instagram, because we have women all around the world who will be posting a picture of themselves in their t-shirt, saying what makes them powerful, And it's a great way for people to like start following and finding each other. And I love seeing who gets connected during that day, because you never know who's going to find a new friend or a new, collaborator. And we'll, of course, be sharing those things that day too. So you have tons of International Women's Day things coming. Am I forgetting anything for International Women's Day in particular?
We have our live stream with the Powerful Ladies team. That's going to be on the Friday before International Women's Day. But I think it'll be an awesome opportunity for, especially as we come into the team's conversation, for our community to kind of see what actually happens behind the scenes of Powerful Ladies, and that you have a team, and I don't know that everybody knows who we all are. And I think it'll be an awesome moment of kind of opening that door into behind the scenes, showing people that we're just normal women too, just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Normal women and Tomas. Yep.
So true.
Yeah.
Normal people.
Normal people. Yes. 100%. So I want to get back to you a little bit. So when you think of the words powerful and ladies, what do they mean to you individually, and what do they mean to you together?
So powerful to me is a word that I would say means anything that has within it the ability to move people, move things, move themselves. And that can be in large and small ways. Like, I always think about powerful as like all of the powerful things that I look at every day, or powerful things that inspire me. So like, I think about how right now I'm looking out my window, and how that looking out at the mountains outside my house is such a powerful moment for me every day. And I think about that, and I think about the magnitude of that. And then I think about, on a smaller scale, like the magnitude of the potential that I have. I think about it as harnessing energy. Like I said, the ability to move people, things. So that's, I think powerful to me is definitely the ability to move and change and have an impact and hold energy. And then the word lady to me, I think lady for me inspires poise. And also, I always loved the word ladies as like a plural. Like when I was on sports teams in high school, which I was a massive athlete, I would always say ladies instead of team or girls, because I think there's something inherently powerful about the word ladies, because while it does hold this femininity, it also holds poise and strength. And I think about like lords and ladies, and I think about, I don't know, I just think about all the amazing qualities that also fall under the feminine bracket. While I love the word woman, I think that lady is something a little bit edgier, a little bit more badass, someone with a little bit more character than just a woman. So I think for me, powerful ladies is this combination of energy and the ability to create change and create an impact, and that femininity, that poise, that fearless badassness that I associate with the word lady. So I think it's just the coolest, most impactful people that you can think of. So I really do think that women have the power to change the world in a way that we've truly been underestimated for all of history. And so I think it's just kind of the combination of all of those amazing things in 1-2 word statement.
Yeah. Speaking of powerful ladies, who are, women as you've been growing up, or that you either know or know from afar, that have inspired you in how you approach life and what you value?
So my mom is probably my biggest, because she's an incredible, fearless human being who I spent every day with for 19 years. And I watched her work as many jobs as it took for her to have some level of comfort. in life. And then I watched her while I was in high school go back to school.
Mm-hmm.
And really, you know, she was a teacher at my high school and a coach. And I mean, not just my high school, kindergarten through 12, she worked at my school. And she made this choice that she wanted more for herself financially and in terms of fulfillment. While she loved being a teacher, she knew that she had the potential to do more. And watching her do that and fight for that has been something that has guided me. And the principles of how she lives her life, like she always told me, you need to be independent. Whatever you do, know that you have the power to support yourself, that you have the power to make the choices that make it so that you can live a comfortable life. And that's something that sticks with me every day. But I would say one of my biggest inspirations right now is she's sort of a famous Instagram personality, but she's also a writer. Her name's Brianna Madia, and she lives in her van with 3 dogs. And well, not her van anymore, but she has a trailer now, but still, she's a very nomadic soul. We have some personality traits in common. And I love how unapologetically herself she is, because those are words that have been used to describe me. Disruptive, unapologetically herself, brash, abrasive. These are words that have been used to describe me. And she sort of embraces when people come at her with that attitude. And she's a writer and she's a steward of the outdoors, and her vulnerability on Instagram impresses me every day. And I just think that the world needs more people like her who say, hey, you can't talk to me like that. Sorry. And if you mean something negative, when you come at me with, you're brash and you're this, that, and the other, deal with it, because that's who I am. And I like who I am. And I fought really hard to be who I am. And she does that all in the frame of the outdoor community, which I think is just incredible. So she's definitely been a big inspiration for me. She went from like an office job to writing and living in her van. And I just think that that's really inspiring, because she did whatever she wants. You know, she just made it happen.
Yeah. When did you fall in love with the outdoors?
That's an interesting question, because I don't think I've ever questioned my love of the outdoors. Like, we camped for every vacation of my life, I swear, from the time I was born. Like, I remember one hotel. I think we stayed in a hotel for the first time when I was like 6. And I recall the hotel because we never did that.
Yeah.
So honestly, I don't know when the moment that I fell in love with the outdoors was, because I think it was always kind of an inherent part of me, which is interesting because coming from Pittsburgh, I don't think people associate that as like a very outdoorsy place. But my parents definitely preferred to take us camping. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. It's affordable. It's also with kids and groups, it's really easy. But my mom was just, and my dad, but it was just always this thing that we did. And so the outdoors were always important. Like, it was just always fundamentally important to me. I enjoyed my time outside. I was a kid covered in mud and bruises and scratches because me and my best friends, even when I got to school, would spend all of our time playing in the mud. We played together and climbing trees. And I don't know, I think, and then moving to Colorado absolutely impacted that. Because I'm surrounded by and saturated in the most outdoorsy community, maybe in the country. And I think I had a best friend growing up who also inspires me every day. And she's always been, like, from the time she was like 7. Her name is Molly Morbido. She's incredible. You can include her name. She's been a steward of the outdoors, like, without even realizing what an environmentalist she was at a young age. Like, she got our school to implement recycling when we were in like the 6th grade. She got our school to implement composting. Like, she pushed for all of these things because she saw what was happening. Like, even before, she had a viewing party for Inconvenient Truth, and I think we were in middle school, and we watched it together, and we all cried, and we talked about, like, what can we do to change this, and how can we change the trajectory for our planet and our lives. And that's also been a huge part of my love of the outdoors, because I recognize that connecting to nature is one of the only ways we have to teach people to care.
Yeah. Yep.
And unfortunately, our society is really divided, and we are keeping people and certain segments of people, BIPOC. I think the LGBTQ community also gets segmented away from the outdoors. And I think that that's completely wrong, because it's healing and it's powerful, but also, like I said, the only hope we have to save this planet is to make people really love the outdoors. So I think that's a part of it too. In my adult life, recognizing how important it is to love our planet in order and to experience our planet, like really experience it, go out into nature and feel that feeling that you feel when you're alone in the woods or whatever it is. Feeling those feelings are just, it's so important for the future of the planet that we live on.
I remember you were in one of the live classes I've taught, the launch camp, how to sell what you know. And through that, you created a side business that you're still working on. What is that? Like, what is it? What is your goal and dreams for that? Like, what do you want to tell people?
So
and if you want to tell them nothing, you can tell me, cut it out. You're ruining it all. Yeah.
No, I'm happy to talk about it. It's just still in its infancy. And I think that's because I do too many things. And so that's the thing that's fallen by the wayside a little bit and gets put on pause. But I created an Instagram account called Bad Outdoors Woman. And I want it to be a place for the inclusive outdoors, because right now I feel on so many levels and in so many different ways, the outdoor community is exclusive, and it makes people feel as though they can't just be a part of it. I hate the stigma that being outdoorsy means that you have climbed a bunch of 14ers and have mountaineered and like go backcountry skiing and you're like this super badass. And I'm like, that's not what being a person of the outdoors means. I think being outdoorsy, quote unquote, or being an outdoorsman, outdoors woman is really any moment in your life when you can step out into outside of the building that you live in or outside of a building into the fresh air and take a deep breath and appreciate how powerful that is. So I really want that Instagram account to blossom into a place where people can not only say to themselves, oh, I can be an outdoors person, but learn basic things they need to learn so that it's not as intimidating. Like I've skied since I was 5. I'm not a great skier by any means. I'm learning, and I'd like to be better. But because I'm not great and I have insecurities surrounding my ability in that one outdoor activity, it prevents me from getting started. It prevents me from putting myself out there, going skiing with people who I think are better than me, going skiing on mountains that I think are, too advanced for me, which is also silly because that's, knowledge of the outdoors must be shared. And I think that's really my goal for Bad Outdoors Woman. And the reason I called it that is because no one's a perfect outdoors person. No one is a perfect steward of the outdoors. One of the posts that I've been meaning to make, but I haven't, is how my friends and I, our favorite thing to do is just have a couple drinks outside in a beautiful place. I don't care. Like by the creek with a beautiful mountain in front of you. We call it scenic drinking. I think that's outdoorsy. As long as you take care of your trash and recycle and you are doing the things that align with leave no trace principles, anything that you want to go do can count. Like I'm tired of the brick wall between any given human being and the outdoors. Like that's a non-existent wall. And I want to tear that down because some might say that me wanting to like go sit by a creek and in a beautiful place and just drink with my friends makes me a bad outdoors person, but it doesn't. That's just that's what I like to do. And I think that that's fun. That's my social happy place. Outside in nature with my friends, having a couple drinks and relaxing, listening to music. Like that can be just as outdoorsy as backcountry skiing. And people will fight me on it all day. But I want bad outdoors women to represent that you don't have to be an experienced thru hiker to be an outdoors person and to be a steward of the outdoors and to love it. And I want people who live in the inner city to be able to be like, hell yeah, we're going to go try this. We're going to go on this hike in Colorado and it's going to be totally out of our comfort zone, but it's going to be awesome. I want eventually to start programs. This is like big dream someday to help inner city kids get to the outdoors, because camping is the most affordable way to travel. But because a lot of, especially kids in cities, really don't get the chance and don't have the tools and the knowledge to go do that, they don't ever do it. And so they don't have that connection or that drive. And I want it to be a part of doing that, healing people's fear of going out into nature. I want to heal people. Like, I want to heal myself. I want to heal myself from being afraid to try new outdoor activities. I really want to show the world that the outdoors is for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about that because I just got my first hiking backpack ever.
Ooh.
Like, I've never had one before. And we need it because we're currently scheduled to go to, I don't want to have a supai.
Oh my gosh. I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be like the most amazing backpacking trip of all time.
Right. So I'm very excited, and I hope that we're allowed in by the time our reservation comes up. But so we went and got our first backpacking backpacks, and it sounds so intimidating to have to carry all of your stuff in for like 4 days, until you really think about like what you actually need. And so I'm excited to like go through that process and pull out the stuff we have in the garage and figure out what we need. Because typically we go camping, we're like car camping. And so we have like a huge tent that we set up, which I love because we have like a sleeping area and like a living area. And it's big enough for the dogs and all this stuff. But that will not be coming. And in fact, there have been so many festivals that Jesse and I have brought the big tent to, and we end up sleeping outside because like, why wouldn't you want to like look at the stars? And
exactly.
Even when we did our Zion trip in September, we met our friends at Leo Carrillo outside of Malibu, and our air mattress had popped by that point, and we had tried to repair it like 500 times and it just wasn't working. So we just slept on the ground, like in our tent with our sleeping bags. And it sounds like that would be horrible, but it wasn't at all. It was actually totally fine. And yeah, there's a lot to the minimalist camping option.
Well, and backpacking scares people because they're like, oh, I can't live without this, that, and the other. But for one, backpacking has been going on for so long that the things that they make for you to take in your backpack that get to be this small, it means mind-blowing. I have like a sleeping pad or a ground pad or a sleeping mat, whatever you want to call it, that literally packs up to this size in my backpack. And it's comfortable. And also when you're doing something like that and you're hiking however many miles all day, by the time you lay down, you're like asleep.
Yeah.
You're just done. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're sleeping on. But I would recommend, there is, Brianna Madia and her best friend did that trip, and they did it the old fashioned way. They just backpacked in just one backpack, for each of them. And, they have a packing list. I'll have to send you the link. They have like a packing list and how they planned for their trip, because it is in the desert. So you've got cold at night, but pretty hot during the day. There are water filling stations like once you get inside and stuff. I want to do it desperately. Getting a permit is so hard. But then there's some interesting conversation about that trip, because there are these companies that you can essentially pay, or not these companies. I believe it's through the reservation that it's on. You can pay to have horses trek your stuff in for you.
Yes. They're very expensive.
Yeah, they're very expensive, and they're also really mistreated. So there's a really interesting conversation happening about that, and also about other ways that you can contribute to I believe it's Havasupai people and basically contribute to their economy without renting donkeys and horses that are mistreated and putting their lives at risk. So I'll just send you links on both of those things. But it's supposed to be an incredible, incredible, magical place. And I'm so jealous. I'm so excited for you. And you really, like, when you get down to it, when it comes to backpacking, you think you need a lot of things. But I can't tell you how many camping trips I've gone on where even up to like 3 or 4 days, I just wear the same pants and the same flannel and the same t-shirt. And yeah, you stink a little sometimes, but like whatever. And on that trip, you're going to be in the water a lot. So
yeah. Well, I'm very excited because I have my Switch underwear to try out for the first time also. So now that now that Switch underwear exists, you can literally wear the same pants and feel fresh every day. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. And I can't wait to talk to Isabel, the CEO of Switch, because all the girls going on the trip, they also now want to get their like Switch kits. And for those of you, this is the first time you've heard of it, Switch underwear has like Velcro on the side. So you don't need to fully undress if you're like skiing or whatever you need to do. Like you don't have to get fully undressed to change your underwear. It's a game changer.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can use it if you cycle to work, if you're out in the like winter outdoors activities, if you're, you went to yoga class and then you want to go grab lunch with friends, like sometimes that's all like, you just feel gross and that's why you feel gross. So I'm excited to try it out.
I'm the queen of having, I always take more underwear than I need anywhere I'm going. Like always. I just think it's a great rule of thumb because it makes you feel so much better.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, camping, I think that's like the biggest thing. It's like, your pants can be dirty. Who cares? But you just want clean underwear because it's a comfort thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. I've not actually heard of them, but I'm definitely going to check them out because that's a really cool, especially if you're with a group and you're hiking and stuff. And it's always like kind of spooky in general, like to have to change when there's a bunch of people around if you don't have any cover or whatever it is. So that's awesome. That's a great concept. Something that people need.
For sure. And sometimes it's like you don't want to have to take off like your boots and your socks and all your layers just to do that. So it's also nice to have the ability to change your underwear easy. Because like a bra, there's all sorts of ways that people have made different ones. You can change it without having to like fully get undressed, but underwear they haven't gotten to yet.
Totally. So. Especially like I can think of times when like I've car camped. For example, when I was coming to check out my house here and get a job here, I slept in my car. And it was car camping. I had my mattress in the back and stuff. But I remember going to a bathroom at a restaurant to change. And I remember being like, this is so awkward. Like I'm in a stall in a bathroom and I feel like people can see me. And I'm like fully undressed in here. I've got like clothes on the dirty floor. Like, ugh.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'm not afraid of a little dirt, but like, I don't know. It's just
germs and dirt are very different.
Exactly. Germs and dirt are so different. Yeah. That's an awesome product. I'm definitely going to check it out.
Yeah. When we, look at who you were at age 8 and what you're doing now and the life that you've created, what would 8-year-old you say to current you?
Well, this is an interesting question because I've been having this conversation with myself a lot lately. 8-year-old me was about as precocious and fearless as a kid gets. And I think 8-year-old me would probably yell at 26-year-old me for being so scared of myself, for not putting myself out there enough, for not getting started today. Like I am such a procrastinator because I'm afraid that even if I try my best, I'll still fail. And 8-year-old me would be pissed about that. She'd be like, dude, are you kidding? 8-year-old me was like, I'm never going to get married. I'm going to adopt kids. Like, and that changes as you get older. You meet somebody and that changes. Or just you come to understand romantic love. I mean, I don't think at 8 years old, I understood that. So I certainly didn't want to depend on any boy. Which I don't. She'd be proud of a couple things, but she'd definitely, but she'd definitely mostly be like, dude, you're being so soft right now. Like she'd be like, grow up, just do it. Because I don't know when, I think I'm guessing like puberty and insecurity, that era of life started to change the way that experience made me afraid of things.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't know that you're afraid of falling when you're running around until you fall running around in the backyard and you scrape your knee. So I think that experience has taught me that there are things to be afraid of, but 8-year-old me would be like, get it together. Stop being so scared. But she would be proud that I am doing what I want to do with my life. And I'm not, no matter how frustrated I get. And like, you've been on phone calls with me when I'm like, I'm losing it. I can't handle this anymore. I'm doing too many things. I feel like I'm always like trying to pull myself up the rope, but the rope just keeps getting longer. The perpetual hamster wheel feeling I get sometimes. And I think that 8-year-old me would be proud of the fact that I pushed through that. And continue to push for what I want, opposed to maybe what I thought I was supposed to do or what someone else thinks I'm supposed to do. I think my parents got really nervous when I didn't get a professional job right out of college. But if I really think about who I am, I don't think that was ever going to be the thing for me. I've never done things conventionally. I've never fit into the mold of what others expect. I struggled all of my educational career until college at my tiny little private school that I went to because I was too loud and I quote unquote wasn't trying hard enough and I was too disruptive and I cared too much about talking to my friends. But it's just like, I look back and I'm like, I'm so glad that I am the way that I am. And I think the 8-year-old me would be like, you're still pretty true to you, even if you're being a wuss and you're too scared to put yourself out there and do certain things. You are doing you and you are not afraid. In a way, you're still not completely afraid because you're not conforming to the expectations of others. Because while in some ways it's important to take the feedback of the world and the people around you, I think that being true to yourself is the best tool you have, not only to bring the people that are supposed to be in your life, to bring those people closer to you and to keep them in your life, but also to like generally have the life that you want and that you deserve. Because if you can't be yourself, then you're always going to get caught up in some moment where you're like, damn, I don't want to be here right now.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest fear. So working on staying true to that.
Well, and I think for some people working on my team or working with me as a coach, or in Jesse's case, dating me, like the biggest fear or frustration is that I'm going to make that 8-year-old louder. Right. Like there's a term in Landmark called like your act, and your act is like, it's like the ego that's protecting you, right? It wants to stay small. It wants to play it safe. And like Jesse and I have had conversation where he's like, my act hates you because like, I just like, now that I know what your 8-year-old wants, I'm like, I cannot wait for our next phone call. No, because it's true. It's like, and listening to you talk about your 8-year-old self is like reminding me, because I've been, as much as I'm so good at self-propelling and motivating and like making the next thing happen, I still go through phases where I get frustrated that I'm not doing things big enough or fast enough or enough. And I've been going through that this month. And I think it's been a mix of like, we have so many projects overlapping, and, you know, I'm going through a phase of like just being in our house, like all the, you know, I think everyone's gone through the roller coaster of like quarantine, right? And so so much of my identity is travel and adventure and, competing in these dumb lists that my friends and I have made of like the 100 countries by 50. And I'm like, shit, I am off track. Like, we got to go. And so I think, being able to acknowledge myself for how much I do, but then having to fight this battle of like, you're not doing enough, you're not being big enough, like quit waiting for somebody else. So I heard your 8-year-old just talked to my 8-year-old and was like, you need to just start doing the shit. And I was like, oh, okay, good. But it's invigorating because it's a reminder to like, it doesn't have to, what I heard in that was to do the things I want to do and not worry about having the full plan ready, because just doing it. Because I get so stopped sometimes between wanting to do all these things and wanting to be responsible, right? Getting caught in this space of, yeah, sure, I could easily do this business and travel the world at once, but that wouldn't really help my finances in the way that I'm thinking. So, just getting down to like what I really need to achieve those goals. And so my 8-year-old thinks you're 8-year-old.
Well, my 8-year-old is definitely very present right now, because I think in that moment when you asked me that question, like, weirdly, I knew you were going to ask me that because I work with you. And I know that's a question that we ask. I also hadn't thought about it today. I just have been thinking a lot lately about how that version of myself was so much more fearless.
Yeah.
And, it's such a strange feeling when you're like, I know that I am trapping myself in a corner. And I'm the one that's in the way. Like, I know that feeling. And I know that's what I'm doing to myself in a lot of ways. I do it even like with my own writing. Like, I've been saying I want to write a book. But have I started writing a book? No, I have a million notes on my phone of like short paragraphs that would maybe someday go into that book. But if I actually sit down to start, there's the potential of what that means is so scary to me, but it's time. Sometimes it's time to say, you know what, we got to do it. I think that that's kind of, in a way, how I landed in Telluride, is that at one point I was like, no matter how much easier it is for me to stay here in Boulder with the people that are so close to my heart, it's time for me to uproot and shift. I mean, it's time for the soil to turn. Like, I need some change. And I kind of impulsively, like, I'm very impulsive. And I think sometimes the impulsive part of me and the anxious procrastinator are like constantly like fighting each other.
Yes.
And sometimes the impulsive part wins. And that's how I ended up here in some ways. I think in some ways that's how I ended up here.
I'm imagining that your impulsive part wins by like gagging and tying up the other person, like throwing them in the trunk and just taking them along.
Fully.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a whole conversation in one of the either Thrive group calls or the Rise and Thrive. And we were talking about the personalities that we have and being able to identify them so we can like tell them when they need to cut it out. Right. And so I posted a whole thing in the Thrive chat about like who some of mine are. Like, I know that I have an impatient Imogen. Like, she wanted everything done like 2 weeks ago. And then I definitely have like, I think I called her like Direct Debbie, but I also have Fix It Franny, who like, that's how I do my whole business. Like, she wants to fix everything, everyone. And all these personalities have like a yin and a yang, right? Because I have the Fix It personality, I'm able to fix things and businesses and people and coach and do all this stuff. But the Fix It person doesn't always ask permission first, which is how I can get in trouble. So like, seeing all your people, they're all there to help you, right? I would not be where I am today without them. But I also need to remember when to tell them like, okay, everything's fine. This is not your place. Like, I'll call you tomorrow and like put them over here, because otherwise, like, my siblings know when all of them show up together. And that's when I become like, the what is it? The benevolent dictator. That's the right word, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where I'm very good as a firstborn big sister, natural leader to just become a benevolent dictator if I'm left unchecked. So they've experienced that person.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because as a child, I don't think I would have ever considered myself bossy.
Mm-hmm.
As an adult, I recognize that my anxious nature, like, totally takes over and starts to tell people what to do because I'm like, I need it done this way. And so I'm going to be bossy.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely control is like an interesting thing for me. So it's just interesting to hear you say that because I don't know that I would be classified as a benevolent dictator, but depending on the scenario, I think I could. Yeah. Because control helps me to feel less anxious. Mm-hmm. Like, I need my house to be in order. It's a thing for me. It's a huge thing for me. But I also, as direct as I can be, I also get nervous that I'm going to like hurt someone's feelings by telling them to do something differently. So I just do it myself. That's what am I like, I'm like, I want you to do this for me because that's a fair thing to ask for you to do this thing. But I'm afraid that if I ask you to do it, you're not going to do it how I want it done. So I'm just going to shortcut all that and I'm going to do it myself. And that's something that I got to work on.
Well, and it fits so perfectly because we're literally going to talk about that in the team building workshop, because that's what happens with so many female entrepreneurs or female leaders is we don't want to be bossy. We don't want to be the asshole boss. We don't want to be the micromanager. And we have an expectation. So it's like, how do you ever win getting people on your team to do the actions that you want them to? And how do you go about that, right? Like I coach so many clients on that exact thing. Like, whether it's people who like aren't checking their work exactly, or people who are on their phones too much, or somebody who just like doesn't seem to get it. And all these people who are in that position, the work still needs to get done. They're like, oh, I'll just do it. And then they're working 90 hours and they hate their job that they made for themselves.
Right.
So it really is this whole cycle. And a little preview for everyone listening. To me, the most important thing to do, and actually it got quoted from when we had Jessica Asaf on from Prima. She has this great quote in her podcast episode that says, the best thing I ever did as an entrepreneur was be really honest about myself. And it's not to myself, it's about myself. And so, right. I've told you 100 times, like, I want things this way. Here's what I want it. If this is crazy, I empower you to tell me I'm crazy. And like, I don't think most bosses are saying like, I empower you to tell me when I'm insane. But that's one of the options I give people, right? To like check me, because I'll ask for the world and then some. And because in my mind, it's totally doable. But I know that Kara's speed and my world does not always exist for other people.
Well, and in a way, it's like I think there's some of that in all of us because, whatever our things are, whatever our skill sets and our true passions, sometimes we're the magician. Yeah. And then we need other people to also be a magician, but that's not where they are a magician. That's not the part of life in which they are a magician, right? So like, I'll never forget when I was in college and I was studying advertising and we were talking about people that succeed in this business. And I think we were actually in New York. It was after I graduated and we were in New York for the One Show. And we had all entered a bunch of stuff in the One Show. And we were doing a bunch of agency visits. And I actually believe it was the like CD of that agency that said, he was like, I don't think that there are people that are just naturally born good at this. And maybe there are. Maybe there's a couple of those people. But most of us just work really, really hard at it. And so I think there's like a balancing scale of people that are really, really good at one thing or a couple things, or say that's where they're a magician in life. And then there's people who work really, really hard to do that thing because they love it. Yeah. And so it's always this balance of like finding people who are the magician in that way, but also people that are willing to work as hard as it takes to do that. And so, I think you and I have some similar mindsets in that I think we're both, I want to achieve this goal and I see this strategy and I see it this way and this is how I want it to happen. But I don't always know when I'm the magician and when I'm the person that's working really, really hard at it. And I think that's kind of the challenge of building a team, right? Because you never know if someone wants to do that because it's their, what's the word? Your zone of genius. Like,
yes.
I don't know if marketing is my zone of genius, but I want to learn, And so it's just interesting. It's interesting to think about all the different ways that someone can be really good at something. And I definitely am guilty of, maybe not in the business sense or in my career sense, maybe more so back when I was in school or when it comes to like things around my house or things with friendship, where because I do things a certain way and in a certain time period or in a certain timeline, I expect others to sometimes be able to do it in the same way or to inherently know that that's how I need it.
Yes.
And that's an interesting communication conundrum in a way.
Yeah, because there's like to your point, there's being honest in what are your strengths, but also being honest in these are my weaknesses or blind spots, and these are my neuroses. Like I have to just be honest that like these things bother me if they're not done either at all or my way. Because then at least people know that I'm not judging them. Like I really know that I own the neurosis. Like, I have to, and this is where I practice like giving things up as well. And it's dumb things. Like my mother has the way she wants the dishwasher like set to be the most efficient way. Yeah. But, and I didn't think I had a dishwasher thing until I saw Jesse load a dishwasher. And I'm like, who taught you how to load a dishwasher? Like wolves? Like, what are you doing? And so, so whether it's how the dishes are done or how an email is sent or how like, I know I'm particular. So now I just tell people I'm particular and here's what my thing is. This is what this, and I also work really hard to look at what are the things that I really care about so I can give people space to be themselves in that space. So like the dishes, like I really just care that they're done and I didn't do them. So I'm willing to let go how they're happening in the meantime. But there's other things that like judging, right? When is it just getting it done that matters more or getting it done the specific way? And that's the biggest gap. Like if people know how they're being measured and what the expectations are, whether it's personal or business, at least they know what the rules are. We can still laugh at the rules are dumb. I know they're dumb, but that's still going to bother me, right?
Right. It's just so interesting because I've noticed that I have a difficult time letting go of some of the things that shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the dishwasher. That's one of my things with everyone I've ever lived with. If we've had a dishwasher, I don't know if anyone can load it right. And then I had a conversation the other day about how I actually think that the people that design the inside of a dishwasher don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Those people don't know what they're doing. I decided that. I'm like, who am I? And then, but it's things for me, like perfect example is my boyfriend always asks if he can help clean when I'm cleaning the house. When I clean the bathroom, is there anything I can do? And I'm like, you know what? I got to do it my way. But it's so dumb. It's so dumb. It's so dumb of me.
Maybe that's his love language.
Maybe it is. But for me, like self-care is clean house. Like, so it's so funny. Like that shouldn't matter. And I should let him clean it his way. But I just can't. I just haven't let go of it. But then, it's just an interesting conversation to have with yourself because learning about the things that we should let go of versus the things that we can and actually do let go of and allow other people to do. That's a real big lesson. Like it's really tough.
I think it's ongoing too, because there's now that you and everyone listening is going to be looking for what can we let go and like let have peace with. you find things that are easier to let go sooner. And sometimes the things that you're letting go are even things that you think you are supposed to do, but really don't want to do. For example, Jesse's embarrassed that I don't wash my car more often, like the outside of it. The inside of my car is always clean because I don't keep anything in it. Like anything that goes in comes back out every time. But he gets embarrassed that I don't like wash my car every weekend. I don't know why. That's one of his neuroses. So now, like, I just let him take it when it's bothering him. He can go take my car and wash it. Fine for me. Like, it doesn't bother me one way or the other. It takes a while for it to be a bother for myself. And it's just knowing like these matter to me, these things don't, and they're not significant, right? The dishwasher is not significant in how our life goes.
Nope.
But like having, I'm going to give your boyfriend some credit because I don't know if I've ever had a partner who's asked to help me clean. And I don't know if that's because they knew I'd have specific instructions or if they've just never noticed to ask.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, Bash and I have been cohabitating since the beginning of the pandemic. And while he has an apartment of his own, it's like a bedroom that in a shared apartment. So because I have kind of my own space, we've chosen to stay here because we have more privacy and a little more freedom. But he also knows, I think that comes from him knowing me really well. And he knows that cleaning is an anxiety activity for me. Yeah. Like, it's like I'm having a panic attack, so I'm going to deep clean the bathroom. Yep. That's like a real thing in this house. And he recognizes it. And I think part of it's just he wants to help me feel better, but he doesn't really know how. So he just asked if he can clean, which is so lovely. And I was like, I really appreciate you. You can vacuum for me. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Like we have these intricate, facets of our personality, whether you want to call them neuroses or personality traits, tomato. But I definitely think it is interesting because he's the first partner I've ever had that he would even care. I think it's an interesting thing. And that maybe your partners in life have been like, that's a bear that I don't know if I should poke. I don't know if I should I think I should just let her go, but it's just interesting how we all communicate so differently. And definitely one of my communication skills to my people who know me, if I start neurotically cleaning, something's up. Like I'm freaking out. Which is why I clean on Sundays. I clean on Sundays because I'm so anxious and it makes me feel so much better. And then we sit on the couch on Sunday night and I'm like, it's all good.
Yes. I don't have the Sunday anxiety thing, but I do have I want everything done and then I can relax. That sigh. I share that sigh from a different perspective.
Totally. Everyone has their things.
Yes. So we ask everybody on the podcast where you score yourself on the Powerful Ladies scale, 0 being average everyday human and 10 being the most powerful lady in the universe. Where would you score yourself on average and where would you score yourself today?
This is a hard question for me. It makes me a little anxious. Because I think on average, my perspective on myself is that I'm like a 2 or a 3. But today, having this conversation and with a lot of things that have been going on in my life, I'm feeling a little bit more like a 4 or 5. And that's not because I'm like hating on myself. I think it's more of like where I want to be versus where I recognize I am on that scale or on that spectrum or on that journey or path. Like I would say on the path to where I want to be and who I want to be and the level of a powerful lady that I want to be in life. If that's a 1 to 100%, I'm hovering around 20% right now. Like I'm making good progress, but I'm not, I'm very much in the beginning of my journey to be the powerful lady that I want to be.
There's no wrong answers.
So 2 or 3 on a regular day. But today I'm feeling like I'm hovering maybe closer to 40% on the 100%. I like percents more than hard numbers.
That's okay. We'll take it. We'll take it. So for everyone who is now on Team Shae and wants to know how to follow you, support you, all connect with you, where are places that they can do that?
So you can follow both of my Instagram accounts. It's going to be Shae LaPlace, at Shae LaPlace, and at Bad Outdoors Woman. That's where I like to do a lot of my communicating. If you're interested in hiring a writer or an editor, you can always email me, and that's just shaelaplace@me.com. Yeah, I mean, I just would love to like interact with people. And if anyone has questions for me or wants to know where they should go backpacking in Colorado or who they should talk to about their first ski trip or whatever it is, how to build a fire, because that was the basis of Bad Outdoors Woman in the first place, just message me. I'm always, my phone's always right here. And yeah.
Awesome. And if they want to know the way that they fit into the Powerful Ladies universe the best, can they ask you that too?
Absolutely. You can ask any questions you have about Powerful Ladies. Anything you want to know. If you want to be a guest, you can contact me. If you want to know if you should join Thrive, you can contact me. If you, and really any question you have about Powerful Ladies, I feel like I can answer any question you got.
I love it. Well, Shae, thank you so much for being a yes to Powerful Ladies, being a yes to me 2 years ago and every day since. And it's just nice to share a fun conversation with you on a Sunday. Thank you so much.
So fun. Thanks, Kara.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. All the ways to connect with Shae are in our show notes at thepowerfulladies.com/podcast. There you can also leave comments and ask questions about this episode. Do you want more Powerful Ladies? Come join us on Instagram at Powerful Ladies, where you can also find free downloads to start being powerful today. Subscribe to this podcast and help us connect with more listeners by leaving us a 5-star rating and review. If you're looking to connect directly with me, visit karaduffy.com. I'd like to thank our producer, composer, and audio engineer, Jordan Duffy. Without her, this wouldn't be possible. You can follow her on Instagram at Jordan K. Duffy. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, I hope you're being powerful in your life. Go be awesome and up to something.